All right, guys, it is Brad with College SportsCast. Happy Selection Sunday, you guys. We are here to break down the brackets. They just come out in the past hour.
Can I please have your attention?
There's all a commotion around here.
What are you talking about?
Let them yap at you.
It's actually very exciting.
What is up, guys? It is Brad with College SportsCast. Let me get the other guys that I have in here on the stage here.
We got more. Yes.
Show.
Everybody's here.
We have a full house here with us tonight, man. We are all together, maybe for the first time this year. Gonna try this tonight. I've got John Roberts here with me in the top right-hand corner. What's up, John? I've got John Hammonds with me in the bottom right-hand corner. What's up, Hammonds?
What's up, man?
And not on the screen just yet. He's coming back from Dallas. He was in Dallas early this morning. He is below me in the bottom of the left-hand side of the screen. We have former Ole Miss point guard Jason Harrison with us, or he will be with us in just a few minutes. He's a ghost. He's not quite there yet. But I heard his laugh, so he's on with us.
Man, I'm trying to get settled in, man.
He's showing the house.
There he is. Yeah, he's with us.
But I don't know what's right. Hey, listen, I might have to come out, come back in. I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to get it together.
All right, man. All right, man. I know you was in Dallas this morning, so you said you might be a little late, but you were going to try to make it. So I appreciate you.
Man, I just got to the house.
All right, man. I got it. I was traveling last week. I get it. I've been doing quite a bit of traveling, covering that girls' too. So I get it. So
let me see. I got the
first and foremost, guys. I want to get this out of the way here. I'm going to put this up on the screen for you guys. If you are following us on Facebook, you can now send us stars. By sending stars, it helps us earn money to bring you guys more content. So if you are on Facebook, you can send us stars. This is Facebook only, but we do appreciate it if you guys will help us out. Just want to put that out there to start with. Guys, it is March Madness time. It is Selection Sunday. It's one of my absolute favorite times of the year. And the brackets, of course, just come out.
Yes, sir.
I mean,
yes,
come out. They just dropped.
I was watching
the last 30 minutes. So, yeah. So, John Roberts, first and foremost, I want to give you a shout out. Congratulations to the Auburn Tigers for winning the SEC tournament.
Yes, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I got to give you that shout out first.
And you know what? And the reward was getting UConn and UConn's bracket.
Yes. But then again, in 2019, Auburn was in Kansas, Kentucky, and North Carolina's bracket, and we know where that ended up.
Yeah.
So, but
I just had to throw it out there.
It's never going to be easy when you're in the final, when you're in the NCAA tournament. It's still never going to be easy. There's always going to be some tough teams to play. So
that's a fact.
And I don't think Auburn got the benefit quite as much because they didn't have to play Bama. They didn't have to play Tennessee. They didn't have to play Kentucky. If they would have played some of those top teams and beat them and won, I think they might have moved up a seed line. But
Well, most of these seats are already set by Friday anyway. So when you don't play your first game in the tournament until Friday, it's really hard to move up or down unless somebody else somewhere
I just
plummeted.
Say, maybe if the top teams hadn't have went out, maybe Auburn would have had an opportunity to move up one seed line. And that's a maybe. I'm not saying I'm sure, but I mean, maybe.
Yeah, and the only other interesting point in this thing too is that what was it? 2 years ago, Auburn and Alabama got to play their first round games in Birmingham, right?
Yeah.
And now both Auburn, Alabama, and UAB are all going to go travel out to Spokane, Washington. All three. So I think that what they said, hey, we screwed up by putting you two in right next to your, home area, and you were not necessarily the higher seeds in that area. And now we're going to send you all the way as far away from home as possible. So we're going to send you all the way out to Spokane, Washington.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's where we're going to start. We're going to start with the East bracket. That's the bracket that came out first. I have not had time to get all this in, so we're just going to kind of talk about it. I do have East down there on the screen, but we're going to start with the East bracket. That starts with UConn, and they are saying UConn got the top number 1 overall seed. I'm going to begin by saying it doesn't look like it when you look at this bracket. I think 4 of the power conference winners are in this bracket. You got UConn as number 1. Auburn is a 4 seed, and they won SEC. You got Iowa State at the bottom. They won the Big Ten. And
Big 10.
I mean Big 12. I'm sorry, Big 12. And Illinois won the Big Ten. Yeah. That's the 4. So
I can already look at this, and I hate to say it to my guy who I hadn't seen in a long time. Yale is not an easy out. Yale,
no, they got a 7-footer.
Hey, how about 19 when Auburn had one of the better shooting teams, better guard played teams in the country, and almost got knocked out by New Mexico State in round 1. So again, Auburn's never had an easy out.
I mean, so let's start off from the top. You got UConn playing Stetson. This is their first time to the NCAA tournament. I got to give a huge shout out here to James Blackman's son, who is playing on Stetson. He had 43 in the championship game. James Blackman played for the Cats in about 85, graduated about 85. His son is on this team and is one of the best players on the team. Just have to give a little shout out. I doubt they're going to challenge UConn, okay? But I just had to give a little shout out there. Florida Atlantic is the 8 and Northwestern is the 9 in this one.
Let me ask you a question, Brad. Let me ask you a question, Brad.
Yep.
Florida Atlantic got an at-large bid?
They did. Yeah. They grabbed one of the at-large bids.
And South Florida did.
And they got
did South Florida get in?
Well, I didn't see them. I never saw them, and they were the number 1. They were the number 1 seed in their conference. They were the number 1 seed in their conference tournament, and they didn't get in.
They were.
Continue, Brad. Continue.
Everybody's talking over everybody.
We're going to talk about some of the things that.
Go ahead. Okay.
We'll talk about them. But so San Diego State is 5. UAB gets the 12 here. They won the AAC. So they get the 12. Auburn is the 4, and Yale is the 13. That's the top half of the bracket. The bottom half is BYU is 6. Duquesne is 11. Illinois is 3. Morehead State is 14. Washington State from the Pac-12 gets the 7 seed. Drake gets the 10.
Upset alert.
Iowa,
Upset alert.
Iowa State 2 and South Dakota State 15. That's what the East looks like.
What I was
Hammond,
going to say,
what do you
I
see
was trying
in
to
this
say
bracket?
something. Everybody's talking over everybody. I couldn't say nothing. But South
All right,
Florida,
what do you see in this bracket?
the South Florida couldn't get in because they had 2 quad 3 losses. They didn't have a great resume. They just didn't. It didn't build up to par to what the committee wanted, how they wanted to put them in.
Like
so
I said,
And Florida Atlantic did.
We'll talk about
Florida Atlantic
did left out.
Florida Atlantic beat Arizona, which has
early in the year.
A leeway.
Early in the year.
Yeah, UAB wasn't going to get in unless they won the tournament.
No,
they were a team that actually had. I mean, they had a pretty decent record until late in the.
I'm going to say this real quick before we start, because we're going to get on the first 4 and all that. For New Mexico to be a bid stealer, they said that they was a bid stealer, is absolutely ludicrous. That's all I'll say about that.
Well, like I said, we'll get to all that. What do you think about this East bracket, Emmons? Looking at the East bracket.
Well, looking at it from here, I'm looking at some of the matchups. Maybe in the second round, we could have a San Diego State Auburn game, which will be a fun matchup. 2 top defensive teams going at one another.
But what if it was UAB in Auburn?
Still might be the same.
Yeah.
Washington State, I feel like got a bad draw here. Especially, with the 2 seed Iowa State, and then they got to play Drake to start out with. I'll tell you who got the best draw of anybody was Illinois. Because, I think they can beat BYU. I think, to me, it's going to be Illinois and UConn for the Elite 8. If that's just my pick. But I don't think nobody's going to challenge.
I wasn't going to get into picks yet. I thought we'd do that in a show later in the week.
I just don't think nobody's going to be able to get to UConn. I don't even think Florida Atlantic can challenge them, to be honest with you. It's UConn's just playing really well right now, and FAU's too inconsistent for me to pull an upset this early. So,
all right, Roberts, what do you think about the East? It's got your Auburn Tigers in it. How do you feel about the bracket? Just looking at it right off the bat?
It does. So I was watching the show, the little reveal show or whatever, and every one of them, and I kind of tend to agree with this one. Every one of them said this one was going to be the toughest bracket. And I mean,
should
with
the number 1 overall seed get the toughest bracket?
That was the thing that they were all talking about. They were all saying that this is something that the number 1 seed overall shouldn't have the hardest bracket, but yet here they are with the hardest bracket. So
right, yeah.
Either way, I mean, again, as I've stated earlier in the show, that Auburn never has an easy draw, and it doesn't matter whether it's the first game, second game, or third game that they could be playing in. It's never going to be easy. It's not easy. So they will have a tough time with Yale, and they'll turn around. If they win that one, they'll have to face the winner of San Diego State UAB, which would also still be a tough draw. I thought originally before this reveal show happened,
Andy Kennedy gets his shot. Is all I'm going to say.
There was a big contingent. There was a big contingent of Auburn fans and even Alabama fans that thought that the opening game would be Auburn versus Samford or Alabama versus Samford, and that would have been one of the just worst draws ever because Samford would win that game against either one of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But. Yeah, they'll be. We'll talk about them later because they're later on in this bracket. So, right. But
yeah, absolutely. All right, so Harrison, what do you think, man? What do you think, Jason, about this East bracket? Just looking at it, first thoughts.
I think it's a pretty tough one. I think that There are a lot of intriguing matchups. I think the second round will be fireworks. I think that man, it's so many different storylines that you could talk about. You could talk about obviously to me, like I said, Florida Atlanta getting in. That's just a shocker to me, but like you said, I guess they didn't have enough quality. That I guess that Arizona victory, like John Hammond said, hey,
yeah,
it really held tight because I didn't think they had a great year at all. I thought they should have been in NIT. I think South Florida should have gotten that at large bid. I mean, but I think the committee decided on that the team Florida Atlanta had a nice run last year. I think they deserved another chance because they had been ranked all year. I guess my comment is for later
nice
on.
wins early in the year.
Yeah, and like I said, they stood the test of time. They made it as far as they did. I think AK is like Billy the Kid, man. He's gonna always have some bullets in the chamber. And I think he was close last year, and this year he's got no one to hump. I think if he wins the first game and it actually is UAB against Auburn, I think that would be the highest scoring game in the whole NCAA because both teams are well equipped to score. But I think Auburn win that game. But I just give it up to Andy Kennedy. I know the adversity he's faced.
Hey, Andy Kennedy, I've said it ever since he's been at. I mean, for a long time, actually. I mean, way back. I mean, even before he was at Ole Miss, when he was, I mean, I've always liked
Cincinnati, yeah.
Cincinnati. I've always liked Andy Kennedy as a coach. I think he's doing a fantastic job at UAB. He's done a fantastic job at UAB. I'm actually pretty happy to see him in the tournament, to be honest with you, here in this bracket. And my initial thoughts here in the East is I thought this was a tough bracket. I said that right off the bat. 4 power conference tournament winners are in this bracket just alone. Yeah. So that right there tells you that this is a pretty tough bracket, if you ask me.
Pretty tough bracket.
Yeah. So we're going to move on to the South. The South looks like this. You have Houston as the number 1 overall seed. They're playing Longwood. Nebraska is the 8. They have they're going against Texas A&M, who is the 9 seed. Wisconsin is the 5. James Madison is the 12. That is a tough team to play. They opened beating Michigan State early in the season. Duke plays Vermont. That's the 4-13 matchup. 6-11 is Texas Tech versus NC State, who made a heck of a run. 5 days, 5 games to win the ACC tournament. They are a bid stealer to get in. Kentucky gets the 3 seed here. I'll be honest with you, after the loss to A&M, I was a little shocked. I thought we'd fall to a 4, but we do get the 3 seed here. We're playing Oakland. Townsend, remember that name for Oakland. He's a heck of a player, 6'6", a great player. Florida plays the winner of Boise State, Colorado as the 10 seed. And then Marquette is the 2. And Western Kentucky is back in the tournament. I am very glad to see Western Kentucky in the field. They ran and won the Conference USA tournament. And knocked off some teams and won the Conference USA tournament last night. So they are in the field at 15. Hammonds, what do you think? What's your first thoughts on the South bracket?
Well, I'm liking the 5-12 matchup. James Madison and Wisconsin. I think that's a upset pick.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be honest with you. I think Kentucky got one of the better draws they've had in a long time. Just from a mere fact that, which don't get me wrong, Oakland is a challenging team. They got Townsend, but Kentucky can handle Texas Tech and NC State. I think going forward, the Marquette factor, there's some storylines here. Rob Dillingham was committed to NC State, and he went to Kentucky. It could be a potential second-round matchup. You got Marquette and Florida, two well-coached teams.
Guard-oriented teams.
Guard-oriented teams. There's a lot of guard-oriented teams in this bracket. You got with Houston, Texas A&M, Kentucky, especially NC State now that they've come on with
Duke is in here as a 4 seed.
Duke's in there. So this is a tough bracket for Houston to get to Phoenix, I think. I wouldn't be shocked, and I know we'll do picks later on, but wouldn't be shocked if Texas A&M won that first game and they gave Houston some trouble in that second round matchup. Now, they might not beat them, but they might give them some trouble, especially if Radford and Wade Taylor. Those are two outstanding guards.
Absolutely. They give us trouble all year. All right, John Roberts, what do you think about the South bracket?
I mean, look, Houston, number 1 seed. Obviously that's a clear-cut favorite right there. I mean, I think Kentucky's got a very favorable draw to get to the finals in this bracket here, but I don't know. There's a lot of teams that you don't really know a ton about. All right, Nebraska. Nebraska could.
They've had some injuries. Nebraska has. So
right. Yeah.
It's tough for them.
Yeah.
I will say this. Tominaga, if you've never watched Tominaga plays for Nebraska, kid can absolutely shoot the lights out of it. He's one of the better 3-point shooters in the Big Ten.
And I mean, with A&M, with Taylor and Radford, if those guys are on, there's not really anybody that can stop them. But they have to be on, and there were games where they were not. Whether it was like earlier in this season where they were not. I mean, even versus Auburn, I think Auburn shut down Taylor to where he might have gotten up to 10 or 15 points when they played against Auburn. It's the reason why Auburn was able to do what they did against them was because they were able to shut down Taylor and Radford. But when you have two of them, if one's off, if the other one's going, then you should be fine. So, but Florida just had one of their players knocked out for the rest of the season, broke his leg.
Bad injury.
Yep, broke his leg in the SEC championship game. So, don't know where they're going to be moving forward. They ought to be able to win that first round game against whomever they're playing, but then after that, I don't know because of the again, you're losing. It doesn't matter whether the person was part of your starting 5 or in your backups. It's still depth. It's still depth, and any sort of depth in the tournament, any sort of loss of depth in the tournament is a big loss. So
I agree with you on that. All right, Jason, what was your thoughts on the South bracket here?
I'm on the fence with Houston being the number 1 seed. I do understand that they had a body of work, but if I'm being quite honest, Houston has not looked like Houston against the top tier teams here recently. The thrashing, now I do understand that they have an injury of some sort with a player, but the thrashing that Iowa State
put on
them, I couldn't justify them for a number 1 seed.
And Jason, I'm gonna just say this, and you played in the NCAA tournament, and you've been around that atmosphere and that environment. It's a different level than you would play in a conference tournament in the regular season. It's just a different animal when you're going up against teams back-to-back nights, every other night. It can weigh a lot on you.
And I understand that, but that's the NCAA tournament. Even though they came in with a bye, so let's not forget about that. I don't think they played in the first round, and so they had time being the top seed in conference. But I'm just a little weird about Houston. To me, is prime for an upset. Now, one thing I do know
Duke has
about
lost
Kevin,
the last 2 games.
yeah,
Duke hasn't looked great their last 2 games.
Duke hasn't either. I'm looking at that bracket. That Nebraska, Texas A&M be good, but I kind of like you said, Kentucky did get a favorable draw, but I would not want to play NC State right now. I think they are really, really, truly, finally finding their identity. At first, they was a team because Ole Miss beat them early in the year, and they did not utilize the big fella. When you have a big guy with that much size who is nimble and has touch, like he has to touch the ball. And because at the end of the day, he's going to either get you in foul trouble or he's going to walk his way, get a bucket. And so now the teams are double teaming him. Now he's making that extra pass. And I sit up and watch that game. When you got guys making shots, you got shooters around. That's a scary combination. And that's Brad. That's old school basketball, inside out. And so once they got that, and then they're a really, really good defensive rebounding team. You see what I'm saying? So we talk about guard-oriented teams. They have good guards. And that's all I'm going to say.
I will say this. You was talking about Houston. I wouldn't be shocked if Marquette or Kentucky won this region right here.
Now, Marquette needs one more player to come back. They need one more player. But Kentucky.
So I was gonna mention that before because none of y'all mentioned that. Marquette's been playing without Tyler Kolek, who is their best guard, maybe their best player.
Can he come back and pick up where he was being out for so long? That's the question.
And that's going to be a big key for Marquette coming up for, if there is a Kentucky Marquette matchup in the Sweet 16, his play is going to be crucial for Marquette. If there is, if that matchup happens. But when you look at this bracket, Houston has had some issues with some of the top teams. Duke has, not played great down the stretch the last little bit. Kentucky at least looked great against Tennessee to finish the season off, but they didn't play great against Texas A&M. But Texas A&M's got 2 really good guards. We just talked about them.
Bad draw. That's a bad draw sometimes. And that's to me is Kentucky's weakness. When you really have strong guards who really look to score, it shows their lack of defense and their youth because they're not.
That's Kentucky's Achilles heel is guard play.
Yeah, guard play.
And Marquette has 4 really good guards, especially with Tyler Kolek back. If he's back and healthy.
Yeah. It's a lot to talk about with this, but it's a pretty tough bracket as well. The first 2 brackets you went on, to me, they're equally as tough. They're equally as, even though, UConn got a bad draw, but this bracket is just as tough as well.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I think that this bracket is got some good teams in it as well. I mean, Houston, of course, I think there was a time a week or 2 ago that Houston could have got the number 1 overall seed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, possibly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, so we're going to move on to the Midwest. The Midwest is Purdue is the number 1 team in this bracket. They are playing the winner of Montana State and Grambling State. Grambling State, congratulations to them. It's their first ever trip to the dance, so congratulations to them. The 8-9 is Utah State from the Mountain West, gets an 8 seed. They were the number 1 overall seed in the regular season out of the Mountain West, which I think is a little low for them to get an 8. If you ask me, my opinion, TCU gets the 9. Gonzaga gets the 5 seed here, guys, and I think that's a little high for this Gonzaga team. There was, before they played Kentucky late in the year there, about 8 games ago, there was talk Gonzaga might miss the tournament, and they beat Kentucky one time, and they beat St. Mary's one time, but lost twice to them. And somehow they get a 5 seed. And I think that's, out of all the seedings, the Gonzaga seeding is the one that's most puzzling to me.
Mm-hmm.
But they do draw McNeese State as the 12. Will Wade gets a shot there. Kansas gets the 4 still. They do play Samford.
Mm-hmm.
John, we was talking about them a minute ago. We'll get to that. South Carolina and Oregon is the 6-11 matchup. Creighton is the 3. Akron is the 14. Texas is the 7. Virginia and Colorado State have the play-in game at 10. Tennessee is the 2, and St. Peter's is matched up with Tennessee as the 5th. So
the committee had the chance to do the funniest thing, and they did what they did.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Would that be hilarious, Heavens? Just out of curiosity.
By looking at this bracket, there's 2 or 3 first-round upsets on the brink. McNeese, Gonzaga, then you got Kansas and Samford. I'm going to tell you something, man. If you've never watched Bucky McMillan, their team play basketball, they can flat get after it, man. Kansas is going to be in for a war for 40 minutes. Samford can play. I like Tennessee in this bottom half. I will say this, that I like Creighton too. It just, you don't know which Creighton team you're going to get. And especially that's the way with South Carolina here against Oregon. But my biggest complaint about this whole bracket is Utah State being an 8 seed. I felt like they should have been at least a 6.
I agree with you. Mountain West has played some really good basketball.
To me, they looked at this and they haven't. To me, I felt like the committee didn't pay attention to the Mountain West. Is what I'm gathering from all this, and that's a shame, to be honest, because the Big East, or not the Big East, but the Mountain West was one of the best conferences all year long, and they ended up getting 6 bids.
Yes, they got 6 bids.
Yeah. That's absolutely a good thing for that conference. I just felt like that was a bad turn of events for them. And on the other side of things here with the playing game, Virginia don't deserve – I know they won 13 games in the ACC, but look what St. John's did. Look what Seton Hall did. And you left them out for Virginia? Like that – to me, that's an issue there. But
yeah, there's some things in this bracket in the Midwest. I think there's some seeding issues here. Virginia getting in seems – over a few of these teams. I can even go Indiana State here, and we'll talk about this later. But there's some issues.
Unfortunate that we'll not get to see Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the tournament. That's
really
Cream.
Yeah. I'm just saying. To me, out of all the brackets, there's some issues here in the Midwest.
This is the
John
one.
Roberts. What's your initial thoughts here out of the Midwest?
In the Midwest here, I thought that Gonzaga was overseeded. I thought that they shouldn't be as high as a 5. So I'm actually looking forward to this McNeese Gonzaga game just to see if we were all right for this 12-5 upset. Samford with Buckyball. Buckyball is just a high-powered, just intensity. They're going fast in your face. It's 40 minutes of hell.
Kansas is not healthy.
Huh?
And Kansas is not healthy.
Right. So I think that this is prime for an upset here. I think that Samford can knock off at least the first opponent. They might even go and let's see who would be number 2. Number 2 would be the winner of the Gonzaga McNeese.
Yeah.
Maybe. But
yeah.
Let's see. South Carolina's up and down. Don't know what you're going to get out of them. They could be a very good defensive team, but the problem is that you're not going to get that. Not all the time are they scoring a lot, and again, you're going to need guard play in tournament time, and that's not a team that seems to be just throwing up guard play left and right. So you could see something go down with that one. And then again, this St. Peter's Tennessee one's going to be kind of funny to watch too, because it's what St. Peter's has done before. But also, if Tennessee wins and Texas wins, you now have who is that? Rick Barnes and the UT and who is the real UT? Of course, Rick Barnes, classic early round exits. So there is a good chance that Tennessee with St. Peter's could also be that early round exit, because they did it already in the SEC tournament with their first game. They got knocked out, by a team that shouldn't have beat them. So.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that 100%. March, Rick Barnes. I mean, you just never know.
He's already showed up. He showed up on Friday.
I told you. I said it. I said he shows up every year. March, Rick Barnes.
I know he's so good in the regular season and so bad in the postseason. I don't know what's going on this. It's just weird.
All right. Harrison, Jason, what do you think about this Midwest bracket, man?
I don't see a lot of star power. I see a lot of upsets in this particular.
That's kind of what I think in this bracket.
Yeah, I think like you said, I can see we can have Oregon, Samford, McNeese, and maybe St. Peter's. Hopefully not, but I can see we can have multiple higher seeds winning. Because
I think part of that is the overseeding in this bracket.
Yeah, I do too.
Well, and then it plays a part that we're overseeding rather, and we left some guys out like Oklahoma, like Pitt, teams of that nature who probably could have filled up this bracket. I'm not just with this region a little bit better. Virginia, I don't see how you pick Virginia over Pitt. I don't see how you pick Florida Atlantic over South Florida, or I don't see how Oklahoma doesn't get in. And well, I can see why Oklahoma doesn't get in, because UAB, Long Beach State, Long Beach State was that team, but UAB and teams that were not
Oregon was probably not going to get in before they won.
Yeah, so that pushes a team like Oklahoma out, but a Pittsburgh or another team like South Florida, like those teams right there, man, had great years in their conferences, right? Pitt obviously didn't win it, but they made some good win. I don't say good. They had some great wins down the stretch that catapulted them in a way. So, but hey,
yeah. Well, so I started off the top talking about this region. I think there's a lot of overseeding in this bracket. I think by looking at it, because of the overseeding, there is some chances of the higher +10 seeds winning some games here. I really like this Samford team. They have been excellent all year. John Roberts is right. He's actually been there and covered them for a game or two this year. They are in Birmingham, right there where he is. So, he has covered them and seen them play up close and personal this year. They are a great team. I really like what Will Wade has done at McNeese State here as well. I mean, they're 31-3, I think, is their overall record as well. And they get Gonzaga with the 5 seed that I don't even think, I think a 7 seed would have been pretty good for Gonzaga, in my opinion. I think that's at least 2 lines better than what they actually are. Mm-hmm. And Utah State probably is 2 lines below. They probably should have been a 6, maybe a 7, but maybe a 6. So I think this is the bracket where there is some issues in my opinion. But we are going to move on and go to the West bracket. The West, North Carolina gets sent out west. They are the 1 seed in the West, which I think is a little interesting. Most of the time, when North Carolina or Duke gets a 1 seed, they get to stay close at home. But they're sent out west here in this bracket. They play the winner of Howard and Wagner in the play-in game. And then I think the 8-9 matchup here is really interesting. You got Mississippi State gets the 8 and Michigan State gets the 9. I know we had some guys in here talking about Michigan State. They're like 19 and 11. They had, a couple of good wins this year. I knew Michigan State was probably going to get in. Then you get St. Mary's gets the 5, and I really don't have an issue with St. Mary's getting the 5. They beat Gonzaga twice, and out of the West Coast Conference, they get Grand Canyon though. I think that is an absolute fire matchup, St. Mary's versus Grand Canyon. And then you get Alabama versus Charleston as the 4-13. And then at the bottom of the bracket, you've got Clemson versus New Mexico. I just want to say, for 2 years, I was hoping they would get in last year. I was so glad to see them make their run and make sure that they get in this tournament. New Mexico is full of former NBA players' sons. Richard Pitino's son is the head coach. They are exciting to watch, and I'm glad to see that they got in this field. They are the 11 seed. Baylor is the 3. Colgate is the 14. Dayton gets a 7 seed here. Nevada gets the 10 out of the Mountain West. They were the 2 seed in the Mountain West Conference tournament. Arizona gets the 2, and they play Long Beach State. Got to give a shout out to Dan Monson here. I'm sorry.
Dan Monson.
He was fired, and his team made a run through the tournament and makes the field here. So Long Beach State. Just got to give a quick shout out to that. All right, Hammonds, what do you think about the West Conference? The West bracket?
I really like that 5-12 game, St. Mary's and Grand Canyon.
I do too. I think that's a fire matchup.
That's a fun game. I like this Charleston-Alabama game. I think Charleston, Pat Kelsey's got a really good group of guys. I think they'll give Alabama some fits. Beyond that, like you said, the Mississippi State, Michigan State game would be great. I just think North Carolina, to me, has a pretty good draw to get to the Elite Eight, which I think Arizona this year, I think, is a lot different. I don't think Long Beach State has a shot in this game. They've made a good run, but I just, Arizona's not going to do what they did a year ago with Princeton.
I can't imagine them losing to Long Beach State.
No,
I just can't. If they do.
But it is interesting that maybe you'll have a Nevada-Arizona game in the second game. Nevada's got a really good player in Lewis and Blackshear. They're really good players. So this should be a really fun bracket. I think this bracket's not really top-heavy compared to the other brackets.
Potential. If he gets there, Arizona, North Carolina matchup for Caleb Love.
Yeah, you're gonna have those two, but that right there would be must see TV with Caleb Love,
RJ Davis, and Caleb Love going at each other. Come on,
some storylines there, my man. So other than that,
there's a story behind that one. In case y'all didn't know,
there is. But go ahead, John. Go ahead, John Roberts.
John,
hold on just a second. Okay. Y'all keep going, and let me be next.
All right.
Well, you go ahead, Jason. Okay. And what do you think about this bracket?
What's up, man? What do you think about this West bracket?
Interesting. Very, very interesting. I think that, like I said, shipping North Carolina, I think, sends the message to North Carolina.
They almost always stay at home when they're the 1 seed.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That sent the message. I think that I like that 8-9 matchup. I think that Michigan.
I do too. I think that's going to be.
I'm surprised that Michigan State got in, but Izzo has been. His team has been playing, like you said, that New Mexico. That Clemson New Mexico game will be one for the ages.
I think it will be too. I like that matchup as well.
And what a way to send the Long Beach State coach out on his banana boat playing against Arizona. A guy who gets fired on Monday, and then his team just runs through the conference tournament for him. And just like I just seen, Grand Canyon.
Happy birthday, David Weber.
I think Grand Canyon can beat St. Mary.
I'm gonna tell you this much. Grand Canyon is an absolute fun team to watch.
I'm telling you, that's a fire matchup, man.
Foster for Grand Canyon might be one of the best players in the country. He just gets after it. People don't realize that Drew is Bryce Drew is the head coach out there. He used to be Vanderbilt coach.
I wasn't sure how to pronounce it. Weber. I'm sorry. I'll say it right. Weber. David Weber. Happy birthday.
Weber, yeah. So, Grand Canyon's a really good team. 29-4, really fun team to watch. To me, I think their ceiling could be the Sweet 16. I don't think they're going to get much farther than that, but there's a chance for an upset there I wouldn't even call it an upset against St. Mary's, to be honest. It to me,
Oh, I don't think it's a major upset, but seed upset, of course, a 12 beating a 5 is
from a seed upset standpoint, it would be
yeah. All right, John Roberts, what's your thoughts on this West bracket?
I was already before we got really discussing this West bracket. I saw that Grand Canyon was in this with St. Mary's and was going to point this one out as being one of the matchups to watch, just because Grand Canyon for basketball is very similar to Grand Canyon for baseball. It is one of those that you just need to watch them, because not many places, I guess not many people have heard of Grand Canyon, but when you really get to watch them, they are really good at the sports that they play. So basketball and baseball are some of these that they're really good at. So I actually wanted to see that one. Alabama and College of Charleston, of course, look, Alabama hasn't played defense in the last, I don't know how long. And so if College of Charleston can get up there and score with Alabama, because Alabama will score, but they can't stop anybody right now. And I mean, giving up over 100 points several times this season is just, it's not something that you think of when you're thinking of a tournament team. And so the fact that they've done that multiple times in this season just means that you can score against them. The only problem is you've got to be able to stop guys that they've got, like Sears and some of the other guys there. So, the other ones, let's see.
The Clemson,
Arizona,
good.
Clemson, New Mexico looked like a pretty good one. Arizona, of course, busted everybody's brackets last year when they went out in the first round as the number 2 seed and get knocked out by the 15 seed. So that was something
I'm gonna kind of interrupt you real quick, but I was looking at some of these matchups. Like some of these first round matches, not all of them,
right?
But some of these teams, we're not going to have a lot of upsets, because some of these teams are really, really not good. We're going to have a lot of games where they're going to be just blowouts,
right?
And I'm not saying that's because from last year to this year to that, but a lot of the top seeds in their conference tournaments got knocked out. The High Points, the Eastern Kentucky's, like some of these teams. Don't get me wrong, they deserve to get here with how they won their conference tournament. But some of the teams they're going up against is far superior than what they are.
Right.
And I think you might see one or two upsets. The most upsets you'll see, I think, will be from the 12-5 range. And maybe the
4-13,
12-13 looks pretty good too. So
the 3-14 matchup, the 3-14 matchups, I think they're uneven. Honestly, to be honest with you. Now, that's not to say that Creighton won't lose, Kentucky won't lose to Oakland, but the 14 seeds, I looked at the 14 seeds, they're they're just not as good as some of these 12, 13 seeds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that stands to reason. Also, out of the West, too, you can find out who the real MSU is. So, with Mississippi State and Michigan State going up against each other. So, the real
that's an
MSU.
interesting game, I think.
If you look up and down
They
some of
really
these,
well.
if you look up and down some of these brackets, though, there's a lot of storylines that can be had, like a lot.
Yeah.
And I tell people
Yeah,
this every year. I think the committee does it on purpose, like to settle like these storylines. I think they do it intentionally, and I know they probably don't. But
somewhat they do for sure.
You know, they do some of it for TV ratings.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Jason. I know you've already talked about some of them. Who you got as some of your teams that you think was left out that deserve to be in this field? I know we already talked about South Florida. You're muted, Jason.
South Florida. I was really talking.
You was.
Yeah.
There you go, man.
Obviously South Florida and Oklahoma, Pitt. I mean, I think that my Ole Miss crew that just filtered out. You know, the bottom half dropped out of it, so we look like an NCAA team, but I think for the most part the committee got everything right.
I thought they did too.
Yeah,
but there's just a couple of teams there, like say for instance a St. John's, Seton Hall. There was just a few teams that just didn't. It just didn't. I didn't understand it, to be honest.
Well, Seton Hall had a good year, considering the year they had, and then
they had some good wins.
They did.
Then you think about St. John's made it all the way to the championship game, and Rick Pitino made a run, and so you got to look at his last 8 games. They really started to play better, and so I mean, you got to reward. And then the Big East. Let's just face it, guys. You need the Big East to be good. Like we need because if you're looking at the conference, you're looking at the ACC, the Big 10. I mean the Big 12, the ACC, the Big 12, the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 10. You got to have the Big East going. You got to have the Big East. We got to have it.
I'll say this too. There's another team that everybody's been talking about since the conference tournament. That's Indiana State. And I say this because I knew going into it that the MVC, the Missouri Valley Conference, was not going to get 2 bids. Whoever won that conference tournament championship was going to get in. And when everybody else started winning, when you started seeing the bid thieves happening, I said Indiana State's in trouble. I knew that their odds
in trouble when you start seeing some of those too.
Their odds of getting very. I hate to see it.
Indiana State's like 28-6.
Yeah, they're a good team. That Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is Avila. Robbie Avila is his name.
Yeah.
But I felt like, I wanted to see him on the big stage. There's a few guys that I wanted to see on the big stage that didn't get to go into the tournament. Kadari Richmond that plays for Seton Hall, he's a really good player. But maybe next year, they can come back and then get healthy and figure things out and get back into the tournament, which there's always the NIT, and this year is going to be fun because the CBI is going to be nothing but mid-major games. So if you like mid-major teams, you're going to see a lot of mid-major games in postseason this year, which will be a big thing for them because, they don't get a lot of recognition very much. So they'll get to have their own tournament and get to show out in the tournament.
John Roberts, is there any team you want to add that you think should have gotten in that was left out?
Not really on top of the ones that you guys have already named. The Indiana States and the South Floridas. So, but yeah. Those are the Those are the only ones that I could think of off the top of my head. I knew that there were a few of these conferences that were going to get multiple bids. So,
yeah. So if I had to add one other team to this that maybe they made a little run in the Big East tournament too, is Providence. I thought Providence has a decent. They're probably a little further down the list, but if you ask me, Indiana State and Seton Hall and St. John's were probably three of the first teams bumped when some of these bid stealers like Oregon and New Mexico and NC State and UAB, when some of those teams started winning the conference tournaments, you have to bump some teams out.
right.
And I think those probably are some of the teams that got bumped out. So, all right, looking at these games, guys, give me 2 or 3 games, first round games that you're looking forward to.
Having to take care of dog situations.
All right, man. Give me 2 or 3 games. Give me 2 or 3 games, first round games that you're looking forward to, John.
Let's see here. Let me get the schedule pulled up here. Hold on a minute. Some of the games. I'm interested in the FAU Northwestern game. I think that'll be a fun matchup. Let's see here. Go down here. I think Washington State Drake will be a fun matchup. Good guard play in that game. I'm excited about Michigan State and Mississippi State. They got a couple of big guys in the middle, Tulu Smith and Malik Hall. It's going to be fun to watch them go at it in the paint.
Yeah.
But the main game that I'm interested in seeing is Wisconsin and James Madison. I'm telling you, man, I like Wisconsin. I think they're a good team. They gave they gave Illinois all they wanted today. But I'm telling you, man, this James Madison team can play basketball. They got a really fun team to watch. And they get after it. They get after you defensively, offensively. They've already beat Michigan State early in the year. So they've got some good wins on their resume. So, this should be a fun tournament. Trey Townsend's a name to watch, plays for Oakland. They play Kentucky. I think he's going to have a big game if he wants to beat Kentucky, I think. They got a couple decent shooters. They can shoot the ball. And the thing about Oakland, I tell people that they get after it. They like to run up and down the floor, and that plays into Kentucky's favor, I think. So that's another game. But there's so many games you could pick. I mean, from start to finish.
I'm gonna ask John Roberts too. So John Roberts, what's 2 or 3 games, first round games that you're looking forward to in these matchups?
I'm actually interested in all of the state of Alabama games. So you've got the Auburn Yale for obvious reasons, but UAB South San Diego State, that one again, it's obvious reasons because of the fact that it's could be a potential next opponent for Auburn. If Auburn were to win against Yale, then they would face the winner of that one. But because it's also Andy Kennedy and UAB in that game, that one is one that would be fun to watch. Sanford, Kansas, because that one is the one that intrigues me the most between all of these here. And then, of course, when you're going to look at your rival, you're going to look at just what does Alabama do? They got put in the 4 seed, and are they going to be able to play enough defense to be able to win any of these games in the tournament? So the state of Alabama is going to be the one. When you get outside the state of Alabama, that Grand Canyon game.
Yeah.
So.
All right, Jason, what's a few games you're looking forward to in these first round games?
Man, I mean, you guys said it all. You're talking about the Michigan or Mississippi State. I'm looking for the Drake. I think Drake can upset someone. I'm looking at Grand Canyon. I'm looking at what was the other one? Hold on, let me pull it back up because I was like, man, these guys are saying everything I was gonna say. I'm getting because I'm looking at the New Mexico Clemson. I mean, I really want to see that. Other games that I think I would like to see. And it's not that I just don't think they're going to win. I'm really an Iowa State fan right now. I am liking the way Iowa State is really playing, and I think that if they're playing like this, they're a Final Four team. They could possibly win it all because they have everything. They play the right way and they guard. But other first round matchups, I want to see that Yale and Auburn because, like you said, it's always the first game for Auburn. If Auburn wins this game, they're going to go on a run. They're really going to go on a run. Auburn has.
Well, you look at what was it, a couple of years ago? They played New Mexico State and they barely beat them. And then
that came down to the wire. Oh my gosh!
But that's every year. Every team has a story that gets to the Final Four. They have to win one of those tough games when it's just an ugly game.
That was also the same year that Auburn did win the SEC tournament that year. They went on the run, won the SEC tournament, beat Tennessee in the SEC tournament, and then won what was that? 4 games in the NCAA tournament, 4 games.
So they beat Kansas, Kentucky, North Carolina, and they lost to Virginia on a double dribble.
Right. Correct.
Yeah.
I always say it's a double dribble because that's what it was. It was
it's always, Virginia double dribbled. Everybody Auburn Twitter, if you go look at it, they'll be just, hey, everybody, just want to remind y'all Virginia double dribbled. And that, So
all right. So one matchup y'all did not say that I've got to at least put in here that I'm interested in is the Gonzaga McNeese State game. I'm really interested in that one. Y'all didn't say that one, I don't think. But we
pretty much have named all the 4-13s and the 5-12s, and then
that's the ones right there. The 5-12s and the 4-13s. That's the ones right there. That's the
right.
ones that really
that was what we were looking at.
The 6-11, the Clemson, New Mexico game. I'm interested in that game, so I'll put that game in as well. I really am kind of pulling for this.
I actually like that matchup. Jalen House and that guard play against Clemson will be fun, man.
I'm telling you, man, they've got it. And of course, I'm going to throw Western Kentucky in here that I'm interested in. They're right in my back door, about 20 minutes from me. They haven't been in the tournament since 2013, so I'm glad to see them in as well. They're a 15 seed, so they're probably not going to win, but they got in the tournament, and it's first-year head coach for them as well, so it's a big deal.
It is.
All right, so John Hammonds, which bracket, which region do you think has the easiest path?
I'd say the West, North Carolina, because the only team that really
North Carolina in the West,
I think could knock them off is Arizona. At this point. So
Clemson beats New Mexico. That's a tough matchup, Jay. I know that's you. All right, John Roberts.
So, I think the West is like the easiest one if you're talking about for a 1 seed, running through it. And because you're the only one that you're really dealing with will be the number 2, and that will be in the Elite 8 to face that team. So you would win your first 2 rounds without really, or first 3 rounds without really having, to really break a sweat. The craziest one, though, or the one that will do all the damage to everybody's brackets, will be the Midwest, though. So, because that's where all your upsets are going to show up.
I agree with that. Because I think the Midwest is the one where we're going to see the most upsets.
What's up, Bobby?
Jason, who do you think has the easiest path, the easiest bracket?
I would say North Carolina is probably maybe an easy bracket, but with that being said, North Carolina could get upset.
Isn't that kind of backwards? Because North Carolina is probably the last 4 seed. They're the ones that got shipped out west.
being shipped out west from North Carolina is not a bad idea. If I'm a North Carolina person, going out west is not as bad as you think. But I think the Tar Heels are going to travel well. But like Joshua Hart, he said the South is the easy bracket.
I don't think so because Marquette, and Kentucky and Houston. Now they're right. Those three right there are pretty tough. And then you got to add Florida to the mix with their guard play.
I think that region, that bracket is going to have some new stars emerge. If I'm saying that correctly,
there's a lot of good guard play in the South.
Yeah, I think a lot of people we don't talk about is going to come in that region. And someone's going to make a star. Someone's going to be a star. They're going to be a March Madness star coming out that region.
Hopefully it's Rob Dillingham.
Hopefully it's Rob Dillingham and Reed Shepard and Antonio Reeves. Hopefully, but we'll see. So Josh says CBS thinks the South is the easiest path. Well, we all said the West. We think North Carolina probably has the easiest path. We all kind of said the West. I do believe that John Roberts is right. I think the Midwest will probably see the most upsets and destruction. He likes to have a little chaos. A little bit of chaos. So it always makes John smile. So to have a little chaos. So I think the Midwest is probably that bracket that
ever since he's joined this podcast, he's wanted chaos.
Yeah,
I'm all about it. If Auburn's not the one that's in it, then I need chaos because that just is the most entertaining. So,
all right, guys. So I'm going to say this before we go off the air tonight. Please join our CBS Bracket Challenge, College SportsCast Bracket. You can look it up. You can also find us on Facebook. I have posted it. I have posted it on Twitter. Jason, and join our bracket. I'd love to have you join our bracket as well. John Robert, join our bracket. I know Hammonds is already there, but I'd like for all of us to be there. And the winner, we're doing a men's and a women's. I've covered women's basketball this year, so I'm doing women's too. There's both. If you're interested, this show is just about the men's bracket. The women's bracket is actually coming up here in a little bit. I plan on getting off here and watching it. We will do a little bit of talk on the women's bracket as well later in the week. But we do have a challenge for the men's and women's bracket on CBS Bracket Challenge. You can join us. The winner of each bracket is going to get 20% off of home field apparel.
Is Tuesday going to be our pick'em show because the game's on Thursday and Friday?
The games are Thursday and Friday. Yeah, we'll have to do our pick'em show a day earlier probably. Yeah. But join our bracket. The winner's going to get 20% off of home field apparel, and you can pick out over 180 teams, your favorite team, some really cool vintage gear for your team, and get 20% off. So that could potentially save you a bunch of money, depending on what you like. The bomber jackets are $160. 20% saves you $32 off.
Yeah.
So,
and those bomber jackets are sweet.
They are sweet, and they
awesome. I love them.
And they just restocked about 12, 15 teams.
Yeah.
For March Madness. So, and the bomber jackets are sweet. I agree with you. They are $160, but 20% off will save you $32.
There you go.
Yeah, and say you talk to Brad.
Do what?
I said, and you talk to Brad by getting it 50% off or 20% off.
Yeah, no, you win the bracket.
You got to win. You got to win. You got to win. You got to win.
Bracket
I'm just aggravating Brad.
Yeah. win our bracket challenge, and you get 20% off at Home Field Apparel.
There is 7 in there now, Joshua Hart says.
Yeah, in the
I'm actually going to post it on my Twitter. I'm going to pass it on my Twitter tonight, so hopefully we'll get some hits.
I'm trying to get more. I've put it out there. I know I want Jason and John Roberts to join, so that'll be 9 if they join in too. Y'all hit the women's bracket too, guys. I know that you're not real big fans. I know Jason might be. Harrison is, I think. He follows women's basketball a little bit, but hit the brackets for me, and we'll get as many as we can. And like I said, the winner gets 20% off home field apparel. You can't beat that. That's a good deal. All right, guys, is there anything else bracket-wise that you wanted to mention or say before we go off the air?
I don't have anything with it's bracket-wise, but I do have some college baseball news. Do we want to do that here, or do we want to do a separate thing for that?
It doesn't matter. You can do it here real quick.
Okay, so this weekend,
Kentucky swept Georgia.
Yep, that was all going to be part of it right here.
Hey, I knew
it. This weekend was the opening weekend for conference play for the SEC. The ACC started last weekend, so they actually start a week early, but I think they also play a non-conference sometime in the middle of their conference play. But the opening weekend for the SEC this weekend, and as you've alluded to, yes, Kentucky swept Georgia this weekend by winning Friday 16-10. They won Saturday 9-3, and then today they ruled Georgia 12-2. So that is a team that Absolutely. Has a guy that could be the Golden Spikes winner in Charlie Condon, who has hit. He's hitting 549, I think, for the year, which is nuts. And he has 13 home runs. And if you look at his last 25 to 30 games, he's hit 25 or so home runs in that time. So he is a sophomore, and the dude is absolutely crushing.
And they were ranked 25th in one poll. And they were ranked 20th. Georgia was ranked 25th in one poll, I know.
Right, but in terms of the poll that I or the site that I was pulling off the scores and everything, they were not using the ranking service that had ranked them. So I think Georgia was kind of right there on the border of being ranked.
I can't remember.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 polls. Okay, so and Auburn is all over the board. Yeah. You know, just if I can give you the rankings for them, but LSU and Mississippi State. Number 2 LSU lost 2 out of 3 at Mississippi State. Mississippi State has not been that great of a ball team. They can hit, but they just don't have the depth at pitching. But so who? The only team that was undefeated. No, the only team that was undefeated going into this weekend was Florida State, and Florida State still is undefeated right now. I think they're 18-0. Okay. But Mississippi State took 2 out of 3 against LSU. Vandy swept Auburn today. This weekend, Auburn had their best shot at winning today, and Vandy around about middle of the game was able to come back and take the lead and then not relinquish it. Auburn's pitching and defense has just kind of failed them over the last week or so. Alabama was able to take 2 out of 3 against number 5 Tennessee, and that's number 14 Alabama taking 2 out of 3 against number 5 Tennessee. Ole Miss took 2 out of 3 against number 20 South Carolina. Arkansas sweeps Mizzou. Mizzou is going to finish number 14. It is going to be very similar to their basketball program. Their baseball team might win 3 to 5 games in the SEC, and that is out of 30. So just that it's not going to be great. They're going to lose a lot. So there should be your team. If your team is good, you should sweep Mizzou, and if you don't, consider that a loss. So anyway, Florida took the series. Number 8 Florida took the series from number 4 Texas A&M. They were able to get a late home run today to take that series. Arkansas, by the way, when I say Arkansas is actually the number 1 team in the country. So it's number 1 versus, probably very, 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 very bottom feeder Mizzou with that Arkansas. Auburn, there's a lot of things to say about Auburn. They're being able to hit. Pitching wise, they've got some depth, but it's their starters that are not necessarily the great as far as SEC wise, being able to have you need guys that can have swing and miss stuff, and they don't. Most of the guys that they have are going to be pitch to contact. The only guy that is swing and miss stuff is Chase Alsop on Friday night. The problem with that is that he hasn't been in the strike zone as much as you would like him to be, and teams are fouling off most everything that is in the strike zone and running his pitch count up. So when he has a high pitch count, he comes out a lot earlier in the ball game. So he's the closest thing they have to swing and miss stuff, and he's not been that great as far as that category. So they've got Joseph Gonzalez, who they sat out for a couple weeks because they were mechanically changing some things. He did all right today, but he is a sinker baller. He is a pitch to contact. So if you are a contact team such as Vandy is, they aren't much of a home run hitting team. They are a contact hitting team, and they just contacted him to death. And that's what happened in this
that's kind of what
this
Kentucky
series
is as well.
Correct. Yes.
That's
so
kind of what Kentucky is as well.
Right. Auburn is a team that has a little bit of contact, but has a lot of power too. So they are a team that can.
Kentucky's got a lot of team speed. They steal a lot of bases. They do a lot of base running, sacrifice flies, and to that nature and that kind of stuff. And
right.
Moving guys over. Yeah.
And see, the thing is like Auburn is they've got a guy that has one of the top base stealers in the country or in the conference, but Vanderbilt is the top base stealing team in the conference. So as far as the team, so and then Kentucky, I think, is probably number 2. So, but that was the thing, is that Vandy got everybody on. They played great team baseball. They were very fundamental, which is something that you would expect from a Tim Corbin coach team. So Tim Corbin, a tree from Jack Leggett, the famed Clemson coach. So yeah, Tim Corbin has been doing this for years and years at Vanderbilt. I believe he's been at Vanderbilt for about 17 to 20 years or so. I think he's won pretty close to 1,000 games at Vanderbilt. So that is what's crazy.
Dick Vitale picked Kentucky to win it all. Wait a second. Is this true, Jerry Carter?
But anyway, the last little bit here is, as I've talked about, alluded to the rankings, that there are six ranking services. So Perfect Game has Auburn at 12. Baseball America has them at 17. D1 Baseball at 18. College Baseball Foundation at 19. USA Today at 19. And the National Collegiate Sports Writers Association has them at 20. They will fall because they did get swept this weekend. They did beat Troy in the midweek earlier this week, which will be a good win. They are 4-0 in the non-conference. They are 0-3, or as far as the midweek non-conference, they were 4-0. In conference right now, they are 0-3 as it was the first weekend, and they were swept.
Kentucky was 16-3 before the weekend, and then swept the series. So, maybe they are getting close to being ranked. They have not been ranked this year.
Mm-hmm. It'll be probably one of those. You'd have to take.
I have not looked at the schedule, so I don't know who they play next weekend. I know they opened with Georgia this weekend.
Right, Auburn gets number 1 Arkansas coming into town, so that's going to be fun.
Ouch.
Yeah, no, it's a brutal schedule no matter who you are in the SEC. Just because there's so many teams that are ranked. I mean, if you go down the listing right here, as far as what I had is,
get going, guys.
We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 teams are ranked in the SEC this week, and you could have maybe one fall out or drop down and one jump in. So you could have Kentucky jump in. You could get Ole Miss that jumps in. You get Ole Miss and Mississippi State may be far enough out that they're not going to jump in just by winning their series today. But you could get Kentucky to jump in. I don't know if they would drop Auburn out of there, but yeah.
That's a pretty good start, I feel like, for Kentucky this year.
Oh, yeah.
In the SEC.
Yep.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm pretty sure they were 16-3 before the series. And then they swept 3 games. So, I mean, that would put them at 19-3.
Right.
Unless I saw 16-3 on Friday and they had already played. I can't remember. But I saw it on Thursday or Friday. So I might be off one game.
I know that Auburn was 13-3 going into the weekend, but they had some games that were canceled. They were 16-3 after winning the second game. Kentucky was, so they are 17-3. They should be 17. They should be 17.
I knew I seen it like a couple of days ago. I didn't know if it was
that would have been that'd have been yesterday. After yesterday's game would have been when you would have seen it.
Yesterday morning. Yeah.
After yesterday's game.
I knew it'd been.
Yep.
Oh, they were 16-3.
Yeah, they were 16-3 after yesterday's game. So today, they would be 17-3, having won the.
Yep. Okay, I got you. I've been trying to pay attention a little bit, especially to Kentucky. I have paid a little bit attention to Auburn because John is now covering Auburn baseball for us here at College SportsCast and Greenville Sports Media. Just like I am been covering the women's Kentucky basketball. John is doing Auburn baseball. So we have a little bit of SEC connection here for you guys. That's the reason why we're bringing this to you as well. And me and John are kind of the back and forth on the baseball, and Jason and John and Jason Harrison and John Hammonds, they're really football and basketball guys. So that's the reason why you saw those drop out.
Right.
But that's cool. Anything else you want to add for baseball?
It's going to be a crazy season just because, again, there's 8 teams that are currently ranked. You could easily have 2 to 3 more teams that aren't ranked now that could be ranked later. You could have 1 to 2 teams that are ranked now that may drop out of the rankings, but it's a brutal schedule. You expect that most of your, you're going to be a shoe-in for the regionals if you win 14 games. So being sub 500, you win 14 in the SEC, you're in. So that's 13, you're kind of borderline. 12, you're probably not going to get in, but 13, you're borderline. 14, you're in. 15, 16, 17, you start hosting. So that's and again, I mean, you're looking
Kentucky
at right at the 500.
So that's a good start.
Yep, and I think Auburn last year
started out slow last year. It got hot and then finished in and got in when early it didn't look like they were going to get in.
I think they were 3-13 to start the
early last year. Yeah, I remember that.
3-12 to start the season in the first 15 games, and then they won 9. No. They went 3-12, and I think they won 9. They won 9-3 after that, and I think they ended up being like somewhere in the neighborhood of 15-15 or whatever. They were pretty close to 15-15, 16-14 because of the way that they started was so bad, but the way that they finished was so good.
I remember that last year. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, guys, this has been our bracket show. We threw in a little college baseball here. We usually just kind of talk SEC. That's our main thing. With when we talk college baseball, like I said, John is now covering Auburn baseball. They do play Kentucky. Goes down to the Plains next month. Might be coming down there to. We need to talk it out, and might be trying to come down there for at least one game. It's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series, I think.
Yeah, so I tend to go down on Saturday. I tend to go down Saturdays when they're at home. That's usually the day that I go. So I will be probably down there on Saturday.
I'm trying to come down there with you for that Saturday game. I'm not sure. So
nice.
That's kind of the plan.
Sweet.
Yeah. cover with you, and got Kentucky and Auburn, and maybe I can kind of meet some Kentucky baseball guys and that kind of stuff as well, make some connections. So
there you go.
Yep, that's the plan. So, all right, guys, we will see you guys probably Wednesday. We will probably do a show Wednesday night this week, because that is going to lead up into Thursday at noon or 11 o'clock when the tournament starts. And we'll kind of talk about and go over some of our predictions for at least the opening weekend for, the first and second rounds of March Madness, and get you to the Sweet 16. All right, guys, we will see you on Wednesday night.